these reviews kind of start here. Kind of makes sense to end them here, doesn't it? Tropical-Rouge, really like any Precure series, has had its ups and, yeah, some major downs, but in the end, at least it kind of knew what they were. Yes, there was a lot of untapped potential, but still, for giving us at least somewhat of an interesting year. Here's to you. I'm gonna keep these beach backgrounds because they look nice. This final episode opened right off the bat with a transformation sequence, I'd imagine mostly just for this line, because as even Laura pointed out, there weren't any more Yaneda to fight. Oh, come on, we all know that's supposed to be a pie.
Pick up pie, Roger. Your pie, sir.
Basics of comedy, people. But no, as it turned out, we actually started with a dream sequence, which led to Manatsu waking up and overhearing Laura's talk with Queenie at the end of the last episode. And apparently, our lead Cure was holding back on us, as not only did she have perfect stealth skills, but also the Force. Otherwise, how would you explain her being able to open the door? Anyway, this was followed up the next day when Manatsu went to retrieve a prize Laura had won in the previous episode. She of course did this because there likely wouldn't have been any other opportunity to do so. Yeah, she didn't even bother to try and hide it, so Laura decided to explain things for herself. That kind of sums up this whole season, don't it? Of course, being the overly idealistic protagonist, our little tropical girl tried to assure her mermaid waifu that they would never forget about her. Yeah, I don't know, Manatsu. This receipt does say it was made by Sanchez. Night joke, but I actually do like this bit of Manatsu telling Laura to just do what's most important to her. It's a really good display of her integrity for now, as we will also get some good follow-up in just a bit. Regardless, the most important thing they all needed to focus on was their little play. And while it was your standard bit of VAs suddenly acting like they can't act, the actual context of the play was pretty entertaining, as it was basically a super condensed summary of the show. I especially love this clever little reference to the body switch episode when Laura and Minori's characters switch clothes. In many ways, it kind of reminded me of the quote-unquote clip show episode of The Last Airbender, where they went to see a Fire Nation stage play of themselves. Granted, this was nowhere near as good, as it lacked the purposely cringy humor, but still not a bad trip down memory lane, and I certainly would have preferred this over another whole episode. Also, they somehow worked in the rapid patty cake bit from the OP, and yet they didn't bother to animate it here. Pity, I was hoping to throw at least one more JoJo reference in. For the last scene of the play, they just decided to ad-lib it a little, and by a little, I mean... And absolute credit where it's due, Ai Fairuzu was clearly acting her heart out here, as Manatsu almost completely retracted her previous statement about letting Laura do what's most important to her, when it in fact clearly conflicted with what was the most important thing in the entire world to her. It was a great scene, punctuated by some really strong emotional tunes that also would have had some great follow-up, but... Save that clip for later. We need to use it when the time is just right. Granted, I get wanting to give us at least a few more Laura meme faces, but still, it just kind of killed the moment even after they resumed the song. I don't know, I just think I would have preferred Manatsu join the song midway through while still clearly holding back her tears, rather than some more of this season's forced humor. Anyway, for their curtain call, even though they didn't have a curtain, Laura decided to throw in her own showstopper and revealed that she was a mermaid. Which, honestly at first, I thought somehow was going to play into the episode. Like, maybe she was purposely trying to get herself banned from the Grand Ocean, or creating some kind of loophole that would prevent them from being able to erase everyone's memories, but...
Nope.
Yeah, unfortunately, as we really should have learned by now with the show, expecting intriguing plot threads was just not part of the big plans, as we even finally learned the reason behind the Grand Ocean's memory machine law within less than the last 10 minutes of the show.
Oh! Okay! In that case, you think you could elaborate?
Like seriously, why does this show have to have so many interesting ideas that now probably will never get expanded upon? Like, putting aside how immoral it is to make such a tyrannical law off of one mermaid's bad experience, this could actually be the basis of a very intriguing little plot line. I mean, I'm a huge fan of this idea of a character being forced to suffer the curse of immortality, or in this case, a long life. In fact, is the implication here supposed to be that the witch was the mermaid who asked to have her memories of Arnett erased? I mean, I highly doubt it, as I can't see the Grand Ocean cooperating with the Witch of Destruction. I don't know, at this point I'm just guessing, because we're probably never going to get any of these answers, and really, we shouldn't be asking these sorts of questions in the final episode. In fact, didn't I say something last week after Butler's motivation just kind of disappeared out of nowhere? Sure, just let it go so they can become the extra final boss of the season, so that Cure Precious has a reason to make an early bird cameo or whatever. Well, just add these to the pile of unresolved plot points. I'm gonna have to clean that up later. I'm really trying not to get frustrated because this farewell scene is actually really well directed. Again, I'm a total sucker for little details like Laura tearing up and this great transition of her being surrounded by her friends and then an empty bottom of the ocean. But when you dangle this sort of delicious looking carrot of a plot point, I just can't help but get a little distracted. Anyway, I guess Laura went to the memory machine off screen, which also somehow erased all evidence of her ever being in Alzora, including the heroine's transformation trinkets, other related objects, and somehow even pictures? Does that thing also have the power to delete tweets because somebody had to post about it? Also, could you just get rid of Twitter altogether if at all possible? Also, I'm just realizing this during editing, but if the machine can remotely remove human memories, then how did young Manatsu maintain her memories of first meeting with Laura? I mean, it's not as though they need to know who the mermaid encountered, as the whole town clearly forgot about her, so then why did it—
The answer is don't think about it.
Oh god, I got way too much mileage out of that Rick and Morty clip. Also, I guess it somehow replaced their memories with fake ones, because otherwise there would be some pretty massive gaps, like how was the Tropical Club originally formed? Anyway, everyone went on with their lives, but Manatsu and Laura admittedly kind of cleverly left themselves a trail of breadcrumbs that led them to reunite with the other. I especially liked how Laura trusted the former antagonist to fill her in, as they weren't human or merfolk and therefore wouldn't be affected by the machine. And yeah, this last bit with Elda was cute, even though it reminds me of another unresolved plot point. Anyway, the two had a little reunion at the needlessly symbolic cove from the first episode, and after seeing the lipstick that started it all, the memories literally started to flow back, and this somehow destroyed the memory machine, and I think the aqua pot restored everyone's memories because—
I don't know!
I'll give it this, some of the ending credits showing how everyone's lives went on afterwards were cute, though had you not watched the episode raw like I did, you likely would have missed out on this whole after credit scene. Now, some of my commenters have theorized that the Crunchyroll version specifically didn't include this because this was where Yui, aka Cure Delicious, made her early bird cameo, and the site might not even have plans to stream Delicious parties, so why even bother, I guess. Still, more than anything, I want to cover this not just for this cute bit of the Tropical-Rouge team dolling up the new heroine, or this very blatant baton pass, but rather for this last note that this series chose to end on.
休まりだからそういう寒いノリはダメ！やっちゃ
You know, I am really resisting the temptation to say a joke like that basically sums up this whole season, but I really don't want to have to say that because I honestly don't think it was that bad. But come on! I am now almost 100% sure that my theory from last week was right. The staff had to know that things were just not going their way, and they just decided to dive headfirst into so bad it's good territory, which again, I can respect. And yet, I also think it took away from some of the genuinely good moments in this final episode, like the farewell song and Yui's introduction, which was kind of funny until they went for the lowest of the low-hanging fruits. That said, I still overall liked this final episode more than I disliked it, as well as the show as a whole. But at the same time, I can't help but wonder what sort of show we would have gotten if they had just followed up on at least some of those unresolved plot points. At times, it almost felt like half of the staff really tried their best to give the series the best ending they could at this point, while the other half tried to sabotage it. Now, honestly, I don't think that was the case, but regardless, this was a hell of a disjointed finale at times. While I'm usually okay with some comedy, one ill-timed or just plain bad joke could seriously kill the mood. And for some strong scenes like the farewell song and the baton pass to the next season, I really wish that weren't the case. That said, there were still some strong scenes that were left untainted, like the play recapping the series, Laura's farewell, and the reunion of the protagonist and Deuterogonus through some very clever gambits. Yes, there were still a lot of gaping plot holes the size of the ocean, which I will elaborate on another day. Still, while it did affect my enjoyment of this episode, I won't say it was the worst because I wasn't expecting too much from the series at this point. At the end of the day, Tropical-Rouge was not a great series by any measure, but I also have to admit, I did have some fun with it, and especially making these reviews, so for that alone, I can appreciate its tenacity and certainly its honesty. I mean seriously, I can't think of any other series that ended this way, so I guess we'll close out with one last SpongeBob clip.
My friend's in there.
Congratulations.
And with that, of course, we're going to make an overview in order to further elaborate on my feelings in regards to this season. Though, in between all of that, we could also have a little fun with some doujinshi. Yeah, we're just going to alternate between a two-part review for this particular book and the overview for the series. So basically, you'll get part 1 of this doujinshi review this week, and then sometime later, hopefully within the next 2 weeks, we'll release the overview for the series, and then we'll wrap up coverage of Tropical-Rouge with part 2 of the doujinshi review. Believe me, doing it this way, we can at least end this series on a bit of a high note. So look forward to it. And until then, though, farewell for now, my friends, and yeah, I think it's just about time I returned this little guy back to the forest where it belongs, and also did my usual wardrobe change. See you next season.